Thank you, Scott. That was brilliant. We hope that the High Court delivers a good decision in the interest of democracy. Our next speaker is Darren West, who is the Shadow Parliamentary Secretary for Labor, and I will introduce him by saying, unquestionably, that the Labor Party in this state has had a great track record of being very cautious about GM. They had a moratorium in place. It was only overturned when the current Liberal government took over. Please welcome Darren West.
Thanks, Scott, and thanks for the invitation to come and address you all today. On what is a very, very sad day. Before I start, I'll take the opportunity of acknowledging the traditional owners and respecting their elders, both past and present. It's a very sad day on a personal level for two families, and I think that needs to be front and centre in all of this. I also feel for the Baxter family. My personal experience was that I spent much of last year being dragged through the Supreme Court with my mother by a family member, and I can tell you that it consumes your being, it consumes your time. You lie awake at 1:30 in the morning thinking about matters that are going to happen tomorrow or what happened yesterday. And I would never wish that on anyone again. So I take particular personal interest in the case of the Baxters and the Marshes. And as has been pointed out, there won't be any winners in this case. Neither of these people really are villains in this story. The Western Australian Labor Party has had, whilst not being strongly supported by the agricultural industry, has a proud history of throwing up some fine agricultural ministers. I've had Ernie Bridge, Kim Chance, we now have Kim Travers as our Shadow Agriculture Minister, who I'm very hopeful will be the next Agricultural Minister in Western Australia. A senior Shadow Cabinet Minister, and I'm quite proud to be his Parliamentary Secretary. I'm also quite proud to be Parliamentary Secretary for Mark McGowan, Leader of WA Labor. Two very intelligent people, two very reasonable people, and people that are going to make a great contribution into the future. But WA Labor has, as Scott has pointed out, always had a cautious approach to this. Some of you may know that I farm 7,000 acres in the wheat belt as well. I'm a relatively new Member of Parliament since last May, and I came into the Parliament, whilst I didn't directly replace Giz, I came into the Parliament when Giz left the Parliament, and I think Parliament might have got a bit of a dud deal there, Giz. But that's how things go sometimes. But I do still run, the farm is still run. I don't have the time to spend on it like I did anymore. And as Julie Newman has pointed out, when the opportunity of something that a progressive piece of technology will come along that may help us in our quest as farmers and agricultural industry people to produce more food on less land, with less rainfall, and in a difficult labour market, of course we're interested. Of course we want to have a look at how this might play out and how it might benefit our industry. But with these things there needs to be a cautious approach, because history is littered with mistakes of people rushing into a whiz-bang such as a cane tow, and finding out several years later that decision was wrong. We should learn from these mistakes, but sadly the Barnett government seems not to have. If WA Labor was in power today, and that's a big if, but if they were, none of us would be here. We would be out doing the things that we like to do on a Sunday morning, spending time with our families and going about our business. At the 2013 State Conference, which is the governing body of the Western Australian Labor Party, we have actually acknowledged in our platform a separate section under agriculture for genetically modified food crops. So what I'll do is, with your concurrence, I'll just read from the platform the two relevant sections. And they are section 302. Labor recognises the importance of maintaining the confidence of buyers and consumers of agricultural products in the international and domestic marketplace. Labor will ensure that consumer preference and market requirements and the need for robust segregation and identity preservation systems and an adequate legal framework are in place before considering proposals for the commercial release of genetically modified food crops. Labor will establish a community consultative committee to advise the government on these issues. And section 303 says Labor will continue to ensure traditional organic agricultural activities throughout Western Australia are protected and therefore not disadvantaged in any way by the release or escape of genetically modified organisms from scientific trials of genetically modified organisms. So I think our position is quite clear on this. In 2008, we saw the election of the worst Premier in Western Australia's history. That's fine. Even more sadly, we saw the appointment of the worst agricultural minister in Western Australia. An agricultural minister who rushed the release of genetically modified crops without doing due diligence and considering the consequences, and who's imposed himself on people like Steve Marsh with his hastily convened decision, influenced by who knows who. Terry Redmond has also seen the gutting of the Agriculture Department and the resources needed to perhaps oversee and facilitate some of these sorts of decisions that he's made. He was such a poor Agriculture Minister that he no longer has the portfolio. He's now leader of the National Party. There's been a lot of commentary by chest beating by the Federal Treasurer in recent days about how the age of entitlement is over. We all need to take responsibility for ourselves. Now I see that as an attack, a preemptive statement for an attack on the poor, the sick, the disadvantaged and the needy. But I don't think Joe Hockey considered that his words may apply to someone like Steve Marsh. Because no one has the right to contaminate another farmer's property. And if they do, someone needs to take responsibility. So I'd suggest that the Federal Treasurer might apply his own rhetoric in a case like this, and the court may consider that. The pro-GM lobby's primary source of argument is what about the choice of farmers, which is difficult in the first instance to argue against. As a farmer myself, I like to make my own choices on what I plant on my property. But what about the choice of Steve Marsh? He made a choice of how to grow on his property, and his choice has been taken away. I support Steve Marsh. I know that other people in the farming fraternity don't. The PGA have come out quite in support of the Baxter family, and that's their right, and that's fine. But I think it's very important that we all remember the personal cost of these two families, the significance of this decision for future families. I hope this never happens again. Thanks very much for listening.